Hi everybody. So we'll see what comes up. So talking about non-duality. Non-duality is not a therapy. It's a suggestion, a possibility. Instead of my life, there's just life. One of the actions of the person, the false self, is to feel the need to help everybody. And again, this is a paradox because help may be given to people around us in a natural organic movement, but without self this doesn't come from a sense that there's a human being who's incomplete and broken and I need to fix them, tell them things so that they won't be that way. So they may be helping in action and less so in words. And again, this may happen or not happen. There's just no telling whether that will or will not arise, and there's no judgment whether it happens or doesn't happen. And being of service can arise in so many ways. And none are seen as being greater or lesser. There's no knowing, one could say, the impact that a certain gesture may or may not have, like the ripple effect in a lake or in the ocean. Why that's important to underline is that most of us, when we embark on a spiritual path, usually land on the path because at some point there's been either some form of suffering or just a dissatisfaction with life. For me, it was a cognition, and that it became evident that I had been successful in everything that I'd pursued, in all manners of life, that when we're in this game of going towards pleasure and avoiding pain, I sought every pleasure that I could possibly imagine and succeeded in doing it. Became good at what I did professionally, dated lots of beautiful women, earned a lot of money, had the cars that I wanted, had the houses that I wanted, so lived in beautiful places, traveled the world. So in a way, it was just seen that these so-called successes were empty. And at the time, that brought me to a significant level of frustration, because it's like, well, what's this life all about if obtaining these things, or because when you get there, it's just this, it's just the same. Everything passes. So we can end up on the spiritual path from a variety of ways. And in a way, we're helping ourselves. A person can't want this, because it's the death of the person, it's the end of the person, and there's just no way the person would want this. So this comes from a different place. There's a different sense that wakes this up. It's a bit like we've been dreaming for a while, we've enjoyed a dream, and each person has billions of different types of dreams being had on this so-called planet. And then all of a sudden there's a kind of a click that something's not quite right. Something doesn't compute. For me, there was also a logical or rational incongruence that A plus B did not equal C. It was obvious that this wasn't rational. It couldn't be progressive. It couldn't be linear in time. So we can have also a mental understanding that time and space and all of these things, that there's something that doesn't smell right about it. And with all of the intellectual understanding of this, you can have people that will understand and be able to say the words of non-duality perfectly and understand them mentally and see, yeah, I can see that this is it, but it's a different thing for that energetic shift to There's either the contracted energy or not. So the funny thing about trying to help other people, which is quite prevalent in current society, because it's kind of like everybody's become a shrink, and everybody's telling each other that they're narcissists and that they're compulsive or addicted or whatever. So it's all of that is part of the same game of measuring one thing against another. And liberation, it's the end of those measurements. It's the false self that feels that it's a position. So this position is in relation to something else, and that can be another person, it can be how much money you have, anything. And so that false self is always measuring an image of itself to a concept that that the masses adhere to, or that we've been taught at school or at home. And that I have to measure up to this standard or this idea or this concept. So I should have money, I should be perfectly kind with everybody. And the paradox is that because of this constant measuring, there's a form of psychosis going on. So rather than ending up being calm and peaceful with other people, it's quite the opposite. So the paradox is that in liberation, you see anger and rage and all these darker emotions just for what they are. There's no need, no desire here to harm anybody else. But the energy that comes up, that we can call anger or rage or jealousy or pride, guilt, shame, they just get seen fully as the energy that they are. And because that's seen fully without being pushed away or tried to be controlled, it's in a way understood what this is and why it's even there. So everything is naturally calm, because the whole body, mind, the nervous system is not on high alert, worrying that the minute that there's an action, that there's going to be a measurement of that action. Quite often with the false self, there's an interaction with someone, and then there's an endless thinking about, did I say the right thing? Should I have said this? Could have said that better, so that there's sort of reverberation and that uncertainty as to this question of, I don't know if I'm a good or a bad person. So discovering our stillness, the stillness that is, don't know if I can say our stillness, but these are just words. So discovering stillness, which has a very impersonal nature, just is. It's kind of like the crack in the mirror, the realization, the mirror, or I could call it the mirror of identity, that we discover that we're not this identity that we've created as a singular person separate from this world, walking around in the world in time and space. And as we go through this so-called spiritual process, the more and more cracks will appear on that mirror until it crumbles, and then there might still be fragments of this mirror. Just small fragments still holding where we are still seeing ourselves bounce back through that mirror, as if I talk to a person and the feedback they give me will tell me something about myself. Being selfless, living with no self, is not being a perfect human being. It's just that this naturally flows out the way it flows out, and it doesn't measure or judge. That movement has, for the most part, ceased, and if it occasionally arises, that might just be a fragment of a mirror, and it's not important, because what is what is. There's no more need or desire to get to a final destination, because this is it. You're already here, home. So it's okay if there's still processing. Funny thing about a lot of this is that when people start, they might go down what you could call the very spiritual path and listen to gurus dressed in white cloaks, and there's a sense that it's all about perfection, and then that might even bring you to self-realization, where you disappear into the nothingness. And that happened here, and I stayed in that nothingness for a couple of years, but that's not it. It's still a resistance to the very humanness that is here. To go into the body, to feel deeply. And I think, I'll speak about this as a man. Women, this is not an absolute rule, but women, because they have a womb, and so there are an immense amount of receptors around the womb into body or inner body. There's a certain natural approach for women to be in body, in emotions and in feelings, to experience life, whether at all times in that way. Men without a womb, we tend to be more rational, more mind-based. And this is, you could say, an evolutionary process. In order to go out hunting and to face the cold and to face danger, we've had to, in a way, be created this way where we have that ability. So coming into the body is the same action, but will be experienced differently, but for a man and for a woman. And in coming into the body, because if you stick in awareness, stuck in presence, there'll just be stagnation. And if that's what's happening, then that's what's happening. But at a certain point, you might realize a dissatisfaction or a yearning, because if we're really honest about I want to be free, then what, truth, for being free, the truth, that will pull us to where we need to go, so to speak. So going into the body is also seeing that God is the perfectly organized sadhana of meditation and breath work and somatic healing and all of these beautiful aligned and restrained ways. But it's also, God is also chaos and messiness and death. That's all. And when we've spent time trying to get to a perfect meditative state and things like that, to stay as awareness, to stay as presence, there can be a real reluctance to see that there's messiness and to be with that messiness. And it's always this. So life, in a way, is the great teacher, because life is both organized and chaotic, just very much like, and I talk about this because I find it very beautiful, is that, a stem comes out of a plant, so it's a singular possibility until it branches. And then as soon as it branches, then another branch branches off it, and another branches off it, which is kind of like what we call a Mobius diagram. And all of these potentials and possibilities are born from one new path, creates an infinite amount of paths. So there's that singular organization and straightness, and then there's branching off and curves and messiness, and it's all mixed. So life will inevitably bring you situations that are not spiritual, bring you the need to earn money, you might even find things, and I've experienced this, you'll sit with a friend who has cancer, and you could tell them that, no, we don't really exist, this is all a dream, we are the allness. That's not helping the friend who has cancer. To just sit and be with them where they're at, not trying to help them or fix them, but just to meet them right there. That's what this is about. It's this aliveness that's right here, right now, simple and chaotic, unpredictable and human. And I've seen it so clearly in, you could say, in both ways, that life has brought situations here where I needed help, and then life has brought situations where I needed to help. And that's really what this is all about. It's a two-way street, because it's one breaking into two and seeing that it's all the same, it's all us. And so I guess the reason I'm speaking about this is because of Kundith talks about things like calling it spiritual bypassing, or but it's almost, I would suggest that it's almost impossible when you're on this path to not get at some moments caught up in a concept, which is perfectly fine, and you will act it out until eventually it gets realized that I'm trying to be better than, I'm trying to be holier. So there's always that trying to be. This is just a very ordinary, natural and I guess I'll leave it with so yeah, I could say don't expect any consistency from me, because that's gone. Without linearity in life, without this idea of that there's only what exists that's here, like a flame burning, and everything just dies instantly. Every word dies. You can't remember the day before. Maybe a memory will pop up, but it just, the need to appear coherent and consistent dies. This just spurts out the way it spurts out. So, what was I going to say? That goes to remembering, it just disappears, and caring whether it did or didn't, it just vanishes. Oh yeah, so as inevitably we'll grab onto a concept and then get to see through it. But one of the trickiest ones I find is that, and I don't know where it comes from, where this absolute attachment to this idea of perfection. I think it, for me, it stems out of a fear, but I guess it's a fear needing to, it's also needing to appear a certain way to get love. Yeah, it's never just one thing, it's a combination of factors. But this is not anything to do with a concept or an image that we could have of perfection, of being without ego in what people think that means, because it is inevitably and will always be wrong. And similarly, and this is important to hear, no matter what, and I'm serious, no matter what you think enlightenment, awakening, or liberation is, it's not that. No matter what, it is the most ordinary and surprising thing that's not a thing. But it is seen when it happens that it cannot be conceived of, it cannot be imagined. because this is life in freefall. This is totally unknown and yet known. When I mean known in the sense it's familiar. It's not like we're stepping into an alien planet and then on Earth, and there's a familiarity with everything, but everything is new and fresh. This moment is the flame burning. It's a play of light. There's nothing else. And I think I'll finish with that. There really is nothing else. There's this. And everything has to die into this. But what this is, I don't know. It is. It's a bit elastic. It's a bit solid. It just is. So, there we go. So peace and love to all, and have a beautiful day.